From homeless man to millionaire, the story of a black maid, poor woman, and nanny. Valentina Adams never expected her quiet life in Aspen to explode like this. A passionate dance instructor, she spent her days swirling through sunlit studios. The scent of pine from the mountains outside mixing with the soft thud of jazz music under her feet. Her world was calm, cozy, and carefully crafted, a shield against old scars and loose ends from her past. Then came a message that slammed through her morning routine like a thunderclap. It was Dante Miller, childhood friend, the boy who'd vanished from her life one summer and reappeared years later as a millionaire entrepreneur no one could touch. A man who built empires while the rest of the world barely noticed. But now, he was reaching out with something so wild, so raw, it shoved everything she thought she knew about friendship, love, and family off a cliff. "I want to have a child," he said. Just like that, without warning. Not wit, just her. As lifelong friends, Valentina's hands trembled when she read the words. Cold sweat gathered along her spine. The lump in her throat refused to go away. How do you say no to a proposition so strange it sparks 1,000 questions at once? How could she navigate this sudden leap? A child born not from love in the traditional sense, but from an ideal born in loneliness and desire. Their story felt like a mystery novel, with the edges frayed by real life. Dante, the homeless teenager, rubbing shoulders with industry titans, the black maid's son who never forgot where he came from. She'd known snippets, rumors whispered in the wind, but this personal plea, it pushed her into a whirlwind of doubt and hope. They met in a small cafe, the kind with chipped paint and wobbly tables where secrets felt safe. Dante's eyes held a restless fire, a haunted look she hadn't seen before. The man who had everything seemed desperate for one thing he couldn't buy or build: family. The plan: science to help them create a life, side by side but apart. It was scary, absurd, beautiful. Valentina flinched as she imagined the needles, the sterile rooms, the sterile risks. But more than that, she felt a shift. Conversations that used to float through the easy air suddenly grounded themselves in vulnerability. Little confessions spilled between them like fragile glass. Insecurities, long-held dreams, hidden fears. Their friendship peeled open, each layer a little rawer, a little more intense. Then came the first heartbeat. A tiny flash of life on a screen. Valentina's breath caught, her heart squeezed tight in a mix of terror and wonder. But as her belly swelled with the truth of their child, so did the world's judgment. Whispers spilled in quiet corners, cold stares at grocery stores. Friends asked why. Outsiders whispered things loud enough for her to hear. In the silence after the accusations, they clung to each other, but cracks appeared. Insecurities gnawed at their bond. Was this enough? Could this shared dream survive the shadows that trailed? Just when the dream seemed on the edge of blooming, Dante's past stepped out from the darkness. A revelation so sharp, it cut through the fragile calm and planted a seed of doubt deep in Valentina's heart. Secrets she hadn't imagined. Truths that threatened to undo them before their son Lorenzo even took his first breath. That night, Valentina stood by the window. The cold mountain air blurred the jagged peaks outside, mirroring her tangled thoughts. Her chest tightened. Her mind raced like wild horses. Could she trust Dante? Could she face the ghosts trailing behind his success? What would his past mean for the future they dared to dream? The snow fell silently, but inside, everything screamed, "Hey!" Before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, hit that powerful like button. It really helps with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Valentina stood by the window, her heart racing against the cold glass, the quiet of the night was shattered. A loud crash echoed from downstairs, followed by frantic voices that rippled through the stillness of their home. She felt a jolt of panic deep in her gut, the kind that sets your pulse racing and sends your thoughts spiraling into darkness. Dante! He met her at the foot of the stairs, wide-eyed and pale. His breath hitched as he tried to form words, but before he could explain, another crash rang out, louder this time. Valentina's instincts kicked in. She grabbed his arm and pulled him towards the living room, where they both froze, eyes wide. The front door swung open, revealing a shadowy figure silhouetted against the porch light. It was a woman, wild-haired and shaking, her clothes torn, face streaked with dirt and tears. "Help, please," she pleaded, voice trembling with urgency. "They're coming." Dante stepped forward, confusion written on his face. "Who are you? What's happening?" The woman's eyes locked onto his, a flicker of recognition sparking in the chaos. I'm Leah. I know you. Please, I need you to trust me." Valentina's heart raced. Leah? The name danced on the edge of her memory. Rumors whispered at school, stories of a girl who vanished along with a piece of Dante's past. She had thought it was just a myth, a thread of tragedy woven into the fabric of Dante's rise. "What do you mean they're coming?" Valentina asked, her voice shaking. "They want him! They've been looking for him!" Leah glanced back, her eyes wide with terror. "He doesn't even know. If they find out he's here, everything will unravel." Dante stood rigid, frozen in shock. "What do you mean, Leah? Who's looking for me?" The air thickened with tension as Leah took a step inside, hands shaking. "The people from your past. They're angry. They think you owe them, and they won't stop until they get what they want." Valentina's mind reeled, came crashing back. The questions about Dante's childhood, the secrets he held. What had he done? Who was this woman? Panic gnawed at her insides, slicing through the fragile bond she and Dante had been nurturing. "No," Dante whispered, horror creeping into his voice. "You shouldn't have come." "It's too late for me." "Not if we stand together," Leah insisted. "But I need you to remember, Dante, you're not just a millionaire now. You're still that boy. They don't care about what you've built. They want revenge, and they'll take it through us." Valentina swallowed hard. The weight of this sudden revelation was a heavy stone in her throat. Her mind raced. Thoughts of Lorenzo washed over her. Was she bringing a child into a storm? A loud knock interrupted their turmoil. The sound, sharp and insistent. It echoed like a death knell against the walls, each strike reverberating through Valentina's chest. Shadows loomed outside. She could see forms moving, ready to breach the threshold. "Hide!" she shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. "Now!" Dante hesitated, torn between his past and the future they'd started to build. But Valentina's voice broke through the haze, and he darted to a corner. Leah followed, her face pale with fear, uncertain of what lay ahead. As Valentina stood alone, breathing heavily, the door began to shake under the force of something unseen. She cast a desperate glance at Dante before the world around her cracked open. The truth hung in the air, thick as smoke. Everything she thought she knew about their story was about to shatter. What did Dante really hide? The door splintered. A sharp crack echoed in the night, and Valentina braced for impact. Would they come for them next? Would the whispers turn into screams? Just before the door gave way, she realized that the reality of what was at stake was far more terrifying than any judgment she'd faced about their child. And with that thought, uncertainty clawed at her insides. Was this the beginning of an end, or a new start? The door splintered. A sharp crack echoed through the tense air, and Valentina braced herself. Her heart hammered, urgency coursing through her veins. Behind her, she could see Dante's face pale, teeth biting into his lip, uncertainty etched across his features. Leah stood frozen beside him, wide-eyed and trembling. Before Valentina could process what was happening, the door burst open with a splintering thud. A group of shadowy figures surged into the room like a dark tide, their faces hidden under hoods that cast ominous shadows. "Dante!" one voice bellowed, cutting through the chaos. "We know you're here." Fear enveloped Valentina like an icy grip. She felt her knees weaken, but something anchored her in place. Lorenzo. The thought of their son quickened her pulse, igniting her will. Whatever was happening, they couldn't take him away. "Get back!" she shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. "You have no right to come here." Dante stepped forward, a protective instinct igniting in him. "What do you want with me?" he demanded, the fire back in his eyes. "I'm not the boy you remember." "Not the boy?" One of the figures laughed, a sound so cold it made Valentina shiver. "You owe everything to us, and you're going to pay. This isn't just about you anymore." Valentina's heart sank. What truth was hiding behind those words? What had Dante done that required a price? She glanced at him, searching for answers in his eyes. Pain lined his brow, and for a moment, Valentina wondered if she really knew him at all. Just then, Leah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "No, it can't be you," she whispered, the realization dawning painfully on her. She took a step back. Every fiber of her body tensed, as if bracing for an oncoming storm. "What are you talking about?" Dante asked, desperation leaking into his voice. "Your father," Leah breathed, horror weaving through her words. "They're not here for you. They're here for your son." A hollow chill seeped into the room, thick and suffocating. Valentina's breath hitched. Lorenzo? A rush of images flooded her mind. The joy of her pregnancy, the anticipation during those quiet nights, suddenly tainted by fear. An instinctive dread clawed at her. "Step away from him!" Valentina yelled, positioning herself between the figures and the staircase leading to their child. If they wanted Lorenzo, they'd have to go through her first. She felt sweat line her palms, the adrenaline sharpening her focus. Dante glanced at Valentina, panic tightening his features. "What do you mean, Leah? They can't," he stammered. "They're going to use him as leverage." Leah's voice shuddered. "They believe you owe them for your past. They think he can pay for whatever sins were committed before you came into power." A large man stepped forward, his voice growling like thunder. "You don't understand what you're playing with, Dante. You can't escape us. Your lineage is a curse, and it's about time you paid the price." Valentina's heart raced as everything inside her screamed to protect her child. "Enough!" she shouted. You won't touch him! But as she glared at the intruders, something twisted within her. What if Dante hadn't just left behind a troubled past? What if his family line was more entangled in darkness than she had imagined? Panic and anger strangled her throat. Every doubt, every whisper she had ignored came rushing back. The figures shifted, eyes narrowing on Dante. "Time's running out," the largest one warned. "You have one chance. Come with us or face the consequences." Valentina's chest felt tight enough to burst. "Dante, what do you know?" she whispered, not daring to pull her gaze away from the menacing figures. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The darkness in the room amplified, filling the space with a sense of impending doom. A loud crash from the kitchen startled everyone, and Valentina could barely breathe as she turned to look. What was happening? What had her life become? In that moment, everything shifted. Nothing would ever be the same again. What had she really signed on for? And more importantly, was her growing family worth the price of blood? As Valentina watched the shadows close in, everything in her world began to tilt. The piercing eyes of the intruders held her captive. In that split second, she felt an energy pulse through the room, thick with fear, raw and unyielding. Suddenly, the faded wallpaper felt like it was closing in on her, suffocating. "Valentina." Dante's voice was low, barely a murmur, yet it pulled her back from the edge. She could see the panic in his eyes, vulnerability swimming in the face of danger. Just before she could respond, a loud crash from the kitchen echoed again, shaking the house to its very core. Plates rattled, and Valentina instinctively reached for Dante, her heart racing. The tension was electric, racing through her veins like fire. "Lorenzo!" she shouted, tearing herself from the moment. "We need to get him!" The words almost choked her. She felt the weight of his safety crash against her heart like a tidal wave. But the shadowy figures pressed forward, boots thudding heavily against the floor. "Tough luck," one of them hurled, a twisted grin spreading across his face. They advanced, eyes focused on Dante, intent on dragging him back into the pit of his past. Suddenly, the kitchen door swung open violently. A figure burst in, small, frantic, breathless. It was Matteo, Valentina's little brother. He was not supposed to be here. Panic washed over her as he stumbled in, face streaked with smeared dirt, looking more like a wild animal than a child. "Get away from them!" Matteo screamed, his tiny fists balled up in defiance. "What? No!" Dante shouted, his face morphing from shock to fear as he realized what was happening. "Matteo, run!" Valentina cried, but before she could step toward him, the largest man turned, pointing a finger like a dagger. "Come here, kid!" he roared. Matteo stood his ground, but for every ounce of courage he wore on his sleeve, fear clouded Valentina's heart. "You are not taking my brother," she yelled, her words echoing as she lunged toward Matteo. That's when everything erupted. Matteo's hand glowed. A bright flash erupted from his palm, lighting up the room like an explosion in the dark. Time slowed as the shockwave collided with the men. A collective gasp filled the air, and Valentina's eyes widened in disbelief. "Matteo?" she gasped, staggering back as the figures flinched, eyes wide with horror. Before them stood not a scared boy, but someone bathed in an intense glow, seemingly channeling pure energy. The power surged through him, one that felt familiar but foreign all at once. Whatever fear had filled the room morphed into confusion, awe mixed with dread. "Don't you touch my family!" Matteo shouted. The words rolled off his tongue with a commanding authority, unlike anything Valentina had ever witnessed. Dante's expression shifted as he clutched Valentina's shoulder, eyes wide. "What is happening?" he whispered, a tremor lacing his voice. A screech rang out as the shadowy figure stumbled back, hesitation etched on their faces, revealing flashes of uncertainty. Had they miscalculated? Were they truly prepared for this unseen power? "Stop! No! This isn't how it's supposed to go!" the large man shouted, fists clenched as if bracing against a storm. But the room buzzed with energy as Matteo held his ground. There was a revelation in the air, heavy with implications. Valentina's mind raced. Could this be the key to everything? What truth lay hidden in the tender heart of her little brother? Suddenly, the shadows began to retreat. Whispers filled the room. Panic. "We'll be back," the large man grunted, before they bolted toward the door, fear rippling through them like a tide. Valentina turned to Matteo, breathless. "What did you just do?" I don't know. I felt it," he stammered, confusion and awe in his eyes. Dante's expression darkened, realization creeping in. "Valentina," he said slowly, "we need to talk about our son, about our family." But she could only stare at Matteo, questions spinning in her mind. It felt as if the ground had shifted, pulling them all into a reality they weren't prepared for. Secrets unfurled like tendrils around them. What had been hidden for so long? Just then, a crackling sound echoed from Matteo's palm. She felt anew the weight of their past, the shadows looming larger. With every piece of the puzzle, the truth was swirling into chaos. "No," she whispered, fear clenching at her throat. "What does this mean for us?" As the uncertainty wrapped around her like a shroud, Valentina realized this was only the beginning. As the energy crackled in the room, Valentina felt the air thrum with latent power. Matteo's small form, glowing like a beacon, shocked her to her core. It was as if the universe was turning on its head. The shadowy figures staggered back, uncertainty shrouding their faces. "Matteo, how did you—" Valentina began, but her words got tangled in the rush of emotions. She was overwhelmed, proud, terrified. What was her little brother capable of? The hulking shadows hesitated, their bravado flickering. "This isn't over, kid," one snarled, but doubt threaded through his tone. They began to back away, eyes darting, fearful. Then suddenly, the tension snapped. A loud explosion shattered the stillness, but not from the front door. A blast erupted from the basement, flames licking up through the floorboards. The acrid smell of smoke filled the air, cutting through the tension. Panic shot through Valentina as dread wrapped tight around her chest. "The basement!" she screamed. "What's happening down there?" "Dante!" she yelled, terror pushing her voice higher. "We have to get out!" But before they could react, the walls shook. A section of the ceiling caved in, a cascade of dust and debris raining down. With a thunderous crash, loose boards crashed around them. Dante instinctively moved toward Valentina, shielding her as the chaos engulfed them. "The fire! We need to evacuate!" he shouted. But his words were drowned out by the roar of flames. Matteo's glow pulsed, illuminating the dark corners of the room, keeping the shadows at bay. But the warmth from his light couldn't stave off the encroaching darkness. Valentina's heart thudded painfully in her chest. Panic seeped in every corner of her mind. Then, as if scripted by some cruel fate, a chilling whisper slipped through the chaos. "You thought this was just about him?" A voice from the shadows, cold and mocking. Valentina's skin crawled. The figure stepped forward, its hood falling back. Valentina's breath caught. She recognized the face. It was a figure from Dante's past, someone she'd only heard in hushed versions of Dante's childhood stories. But he looked different now, hardened. His eyes gleamed with a dangerous edge. "Dante," he sneered, "this was never just about you. It's about what you've inherited." "What do you mean?" Valentina shouted, anger rising against the swirling fear. What more could be hiding? A bone-chilling smile crept across the man's face, each word a dagger. "Your son, he has something that doesn't belong to you, or him, something that should have never been passed down." Time froze. Valentina felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Something her heart had clung to was now being stripped away, like a fragile postcard slowly tearing in the wind. "What did you just say?" she whispered, the lump in her throat suffocating her words. "Lorenzo is more than just a child. He carries the legacy of our family secrets. The blood that runs through his veins belongs to a line of power you can't even begin to comprehend." Panic grabbed Valentina like a vice. The world spun around her. Dante's past loomed tall, casting shadows over their future. "No!" Dante roared, his voice shaking the air. "You were supposed to leave me behind!" "What? What are you not telling me?" Valentina's voice cracked, and she stumbled back. All these truths coming to light were tearing open a wound she didn't know existed. She felt like a puppet, strings cut, spiraling into uncharted darkness. Matteo's glow seemed to fluctuate, flickering from brilliance to dim. Shadows danced wildly, creating a web of uncertainty. "I just want to protect my family," he cried, desperation bright in his small frame. But the man laughed, deep and scornful. "You can't protect them, boy. They are already part of something bigger, a game neither of you fully understand." Panic and confusion bled together. Valentina felt sick, the ground falling away. "What does this mean for Lorenzo?" she choked out. Just then, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. But a sense of foreboding filled her heart. Whatever happened next, they would have to confront truths far darker than faces in the shadows. As the walls trembled, revealing the deep cracks beneath her perfectly curated life, Valentina realized this was only the beginning. What other revelations lurked in the shadows, waiting to tear them apart? The tension felt like a living thing, coiling around them, every breath thick with uncertainty. Valentina's heart pounded as she looked at the glowing figure of Matteo. He was brave, standing tall in a way she had never seen before. Behind him, the shadowy figures sneered, still regaining their composure. But in the back of her mind, dread clung like a thick fog. The man's words echoed loud, heavy, wrapped in danger. Dante stepped forward. "It doesn't matter. Leave my family alone." His voice crackled, brittle with anger, fighting to break through fear. The dark man smirked. "You're all tangled in a web you can't escape. And your so-called family?" He gestured lazily in Matteo's direction. "He doesn't belong here, not in this world." Valentina clutched Matteo, heart racing. "What do you mean?" The question slipped from her mouth, filled with desperation. But before a reply could form on the man's lips, the flaming debris from the basement burst through the ceiling, sending embers raining down like dark stars. Valentina screamed, pulling Matteo close, but the glow from the boy was bright enough to shield them for now. The figures recoiled, but their shock was fleeting. "Your blood is the key, Matteo. You don't even know who you really are," the man growled, venomous rage spilling into the room. Matteo's face twisted in confusion. "What do you mean?" For a moment, doubt flickered behind his eyes, but Valentina felt a rush of resolve. "No, you're lying!" But then, in a whirlwind of chaos, a hidden door at the back of the room swung open. A white-hot light burst forth, palpable and blinding. The shadows shrieked, flinching as the brightness spilled into the space, illuminating everything in stark contrast. It was as if the sun had poured into their lives, pushing back darkness. From within the blinding light, a figure stepped out, a woman. She moved gracefully, shimmering in a radiant aura, long hair flowing like silk. She held her head high, face serene, but Valentina could see shadows behind her radiant smile. As she stepped closer, recognition shattered Valentina's world. "Mom?" Matteo whispered, voice shaking. A gasp echoed in the room. The woman was familiar and yet strange, the stuff of hazy memories and distant dreams. A woman Valentina believed to be lost, gone before Matteo was ever born. What? How? Her heart raced, caught between hope and fear. This wasn't supposed to happen. The glowing woman's eyes locked onto Matteo, filled with warmth. "You're not just my son. You're part of our legacy. A legacy that's both a gift and a curse." Valentina staggered back, her mind racing. "What are you talking about?" Every word was a dagger, cutting deeper. "You abandoned us! You left!" The woman's expression darkened momentarily. "I had to protect you both. We come from a long line of power, a power that requires sacrifice." "What do you mean, sacrifice?" Valentina questioned, heat rising in her cheeks. She felt the ground tilting beneath her thoughts, threatening to swallow her whole. "I was sent away to keep you safe. But Matteo, he's the last key, the last heartbeat of our family line." Suddenly, the shadows loomed larger, anger boiling dangerously. "No! He doesn't belong to you!" the large man shouted, rage igniting. In that moment, chaos tangled like a storm, growing heavier. The room felt electric. Panic clawed at Valentina's heart as she turned towards Dante. Their eyes met, horror surfacing in both. But before anyone could react, Matteo stepped forward, trembling but resolute. "I won't be a pawn in your game. I'll protect my family." A blinding light exploded from him, pushing everyone back, the shadows caving in. Valentina stepped closer to Matteo, breathless. Fear and pride entwined within her. The truth hung in the air, thick and charged. Could Matteo really wield this legacy, or would it destroy them all? But as the dust settled, more shadows poured into the house. "What do we do?" Dante shouted, eyes wide, the grasp of fate tightening with every heartbeat. In that moment of chaos, a sliver of hope wove through Valentina's mind. But questions circled like vultures. Was Matteo truly safe? And what hidden truths lay buried beneath an unraveling legacy? What did it all mean for her, for them, for Lorenzo? The storm was far from over. Matteo's glow filled the room, a beacon against the encroaching shadows. The tension hung thick, each breath a struggle as Valentina's heart raced. The looming threat felt alive, pulsing with every flicker of light. She held on to Matteo, anxiety wrapping around her like a vice. "What do we do?" she whispered, urgency lacing her words. The dark man's sneer widened. "You think that light can save you? This is just the beginning." Valentina's stomach tightened. "We don't want any trouble. Just leave us alone." But the words felt weak. Suddenly, without warning, the air shifted. A deafening crack echoed, slicing through their chaos. It vibrated, rattling the very bones of the house. The walls shook violently. And then, silence. Everything stopped. The shadows fell still, and Mateo's glow dimmed. A figure stepped through the doorway, silhouetted against the blinding light pouring in. The shadow moved closer, and Valentina realized it was Lorenzo. Her heart crashed against her ribs. "No, no, no!" she shouted, rushing forward. But the glow from Mateo flared, barring her path. "Lorenzo, come back!" Valentina cried, fear tightening her throat. The baby's small frame, wandering into danger, tore at the edges of her sanity. As he reached Mateo, the room twisted. The ground heaved like an ocean in a storm. Valleys opened, pulling them downward. Shadows seeped out from the walls, clutching at their feet. Valentina felt herself sway, caught between terror and a strange new hope. "Get away from him!" Mateo yelled, hands outstretched. The light brightened again, pushing against the darkness. But just as it surged, the shadowy man laughed, a cruel, echoing sound that filled every crevice of the room. "You can't protect him. You have no idea of the price your family owes." "I will protect us, with everything I have," Mateo shot back, determination flaring in his eyes. But then, another crack of energy reverberated, and a blinding flash filled the space. In a split second, everything changed. Valentina's heart lurched, eyes wide. When the light receded, she gasped. The room had transformed. All shadows vanished, replaced by an incomprehensible whirl of color and light. There stood Lorenzo, but he was different, radiating an aura that resonated with the air, unlike anything Valentina had ever seen. Lorenzo looked up at Mateo, a smile stretching on his face, but his eyes, oh, those eyes were pools of ancient wisdom. The glow around him intensified, and in that instant, Valentina knew something was terribly wrong. "Wait!" she shouted, fear gripping her. "What's happening?" The shadowy man stepped back, mouth agape, eyes wide with disbelief as if they had pierced through a veil of secrets layered deep in history. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." Then an unthinkable truth tumbled out like stones falling from a mountain. "You didn't know?" he practically spat. "He's the last of us. The blood of our kin runs through him." Valentina staggered back, disbelief washing over her in waves. "What are you saying?" Panic flared through her chest, constricting her breath. She glanced at Mateo, confusion etching his face. "What does that mean?" The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. The air felt electric. A hidden doorway to a perilous legacy was now flung open, exposing a tangled web of betrayals and truths. "The power comes from within. They've been watching all along," the dark man hissed, fear mingling with something else. Desperation. "And they'll come for him." Valentina gasped, wrapping her arms around Mateo. "No, we can't let them take him." But the shadows started to thicken again, swirling and creeping across the room. A chilling realization sank in. This was only the beginning. The danger she thought was simply about her and Dante was far deeper. Their lives were intertwined in a legacy twisted with danger. "Mom!" Mateo cried, turning to her with those powerful eyes swirling with emotions. "What do we do?" Valentina's heart pounded. Everything she thought she knew shattered. She realized the stakes just escalated to a terrifying high. Could she protect both her sons from a fate that loomed like a storm cloud, dark and unyielding? As the shadows coiled around them once more, Valentina stood frozen, gut knotted. Who were they really? What were they meant to face together? The floor beneath her felt unsteady, and in that moment, she understood nothing would remain the same. Not now. What lay ahead was clouded in fear and uncertainty. Would they emerge unscathed, or would something irreparable happen to tear them apart? As the shadows thickened around them, Valentina felt her heart drum against her ribcage. The revelation about Lorenzo swirled in her mind like a storm, desperate questions clawing at her sanity. "Who are we?" she whispered, helpless. Matteo stood tall, light flickering in and out around him, but beneath that power, she could sense his fear. The shadows pressed in closer, creeping along the floors and walls, waiting for their moment to strike. Lorenzo's eyes sparkled with an ancient light, reflecting something deep. "I know them," he said quietly, his small voice piercing through the noise of uncertainty. "They are family." Valentina's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean, family?" Panic surged. How could this be? "They're my family too," Lorenzo continued, voice steady, as if he were talking about something as simple as the weather. "They can help or hurt." The weight of his words settled around them, heavy and cold. The dark man scowled, frustration seeping into his sneer. "You're playing a dangerous game, boy. You think you understand?" But before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them quaked violently. It jerked Valentina from her confusion, steadied her feet. The walls shook, pictures rattling like maracas on a feverish night. Then, out of the chaos came a blinding flash beyond comprehension. A wave of energy rolled through the room, brighter than Matteo's glow, filling the space with a raw force that made her feel weightless. For a moment, everything blurred, reality bending like a distorted reflection. Then it hit her. The floor erupted in brightness, a portal ripping open, revealing a vast void that hung between worlds like an open wound. The shadowy figures stumbled back, shadows of fear creeping across their faces. "No, no, this isn't how it should happen," one of them cried. Then Valentina saw it. A figure emerged from the void, silhouetted against a luminous background, hazy, yet strangely familiar. It moved closer, and her heart raced in wild anticipation. The figure stepped into the light, and her breath caught in her throat. It was her mother. "Mom?" The words slipped from her lips, thick with disbelief. "You don't know the half of it," her mother said, eyes wide with intensity. "I've been trying to protect you." "Protect me?" Valentina felt a whirlwind of emotions crashing over her. Confusion, anger, relief. From what? From who? The shadows began to shift, weaving in and out of the strange light, agitated. "She lied to you," the man shouted, pointing accusingly. "She's part of the reason the curse lives on." The room pulsed with tension, secrets spiraling around them like rusted chains. Valentina turned to her mother, now seething with energy. "What are they talking about? It's not as simple as they want you to believe." The softness in her tone cut through the air, laced with urgency. "I didn't just abandon you. I thought I was saving you from this life." New layers of betrayal wrapped around Valentina's heart. The air felt stifling, as if it were thick with hidden pain. Saving me or trapping me? "Valentina, listen. You're tethered to this legacy as well. They've intertwined our destinies." Matteo's light flickered hesitantly, uncertainty spreading across his young face. "What does that mean for us?" Her mother took a step forward, resolve brightening her eyes. "It means you hold the key to overturning this legacy, but it's also very dangerous. They'll stop at nothing to harness this power." The shadows recoiled, their collective fear palpable. The sudden shift seemed to cage them in a vice, but the darkness now a living force. Everything you thought was safe, it's about to be turned on its head, the dark man said, rage simmering beneath the surface. Just then, a loud crack pierced the tension. The void behind Valentina's mother convulsed and roared, like a beast trying to escape. Then the world shattered around them. The portal exploded, a shockwave rolling through the room, knocking them off their feet. Everything went white. When the light faded, they found themselves in a different landscape, entirely unfamiliar. An empty field stretched for miles under an eerie gray sky. Valentina's heart dropped. Somewhere far off, she could hear the faint echo of laughter, the kind that haunted you. And just like that, their fate twisted in an unpredictable direction, leaving Valentina gasping, tethered to unknown fears and unanswered questions. What had just happened? Valentina blinked against the fading light, her heart racing as she took in the new realm stretched before them. The eerie gray sky loomed overhead, heavy with an unsettling silence. The sprawling field felt completely alien, an expanse that whispered of forgotten tales and uncharted paths. Each blade of grass swayed eerily, moving in an unseen breeze, as if the land itself was alive. "Mom?" Matteo gasped, eyes wide, as he took a step forward. The warmth that radiated from him flickered like a candle in the wind. "What's going on? What is this place?" Valentina's voice trembled, her mind racing with danger and bewilderment. There was something off about the way the light felt, how it didn't quite wrap around them like it should. "I don't know," Lorenzo said softly, confusion etched on his small face. "But I feel different." The air rippled, vibrating with energy just beneath the surface. Valentina sensed it before she saw it, a connection forming around them, a pulse intertwining their fates. And then a whisper curled through the clearing, soft, sweet, but laced with a sinister undertow. "You shouldn't have come back." Valentina froze, heart skipping a beat. Right behind her, the shadows began to shift, swirling in chaotic patterns. The dark man, the one who had claimed they were family, looked as if he had seen a ghost. "No, it can't be!" he shouted, stepping back like he'd been burned. And suddenly, a figure emerged from the shifting darkness, a woman bathed in the same unsettling glow of light that had swallowed them moments before. Taller, regal, she moved with a grace that caught Valentina off guard. Long waves of hair danced around her like tendrils of smoke. Valentina's breath hitched. "Who are you?" she demanded, stepping protectively in front of Matteo. The woman smiled softly, yet something about her smile felt hollow, imbued with secrets Valentina wasn't ready to grasp. "I'm your heritage, child. I'm the one who has watched over you." "Watched over us?" Valentina's voice rose, disbelief flooding her every word. "You caused this!" "No, dear one, I didn't cause your pain, but I didn't stop it either," she replied, her eyes gleaming with a sorrow that felt ancient. "You see, the moment you stepped through the threshold, you awakened what should have been kept dormant." Valentina's chest tightened. "What do you mean? What have we awakened?" The woman's gaze pierced through Valentina, heart and spirit. "The bloodline has always been intertwined with dark forces, powers you have yet to understand. Matteo carries the sacred spark, the key to binding or breaking this fate." Matteo breathed heavily beside her, tension radiating off his little frame. The glow flickered around him, sparking unpredictably with each beat of his heart. Lorenzo, still absorbing nuances, looked from Valentina to Matteo and back. "You mean he's both a blessing and a curse?" Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled violently. "No!" the dark man cried, frantically glancing back at the woman. "This wasn't supposed to happen. You were to remain hidden." "Hidden?" The woman's tone turned sharp. "Your greed has awoken forces beyond your control. There will be a reckoning." With that, a gust roared through the field, howling like a storm brewing. The shadows surged, thickening, wrapping around Valentina's legs. She felt her chest tighten, panic clawing at her throat. "Run!" The woman's voice rang out like a clarion call. But before anyone could move, a flash cut through the chaos, plunging them into a dizzying swirl of brilliance. Time felt irrelevant, as if seconds stretched into endless possibilities. Connections ignited. And then, in the blink of an eye, everything transformed again. When Valentina regained her vision, she gasped. They stood in a crowded hall, vibrant and colorful. Figures from her past moved among the throng. Old friends, family members, long thought lost. Confusion rushed over her. What was happening? "Is this a trick?" she asked, her voice shaky, heart racing. But the woman stood behind her, a sly smile creeping across her face. "Not a trick, Valentina. A reunion. You're far more connected to these people than you know." Emotion surged inside her, raw and powerful. A hollow feeling lined her gut. No, it can't be. And then a name whispered from the crowd, sinking deep into her heart. Rebecca. Her eyes widened, body trembling. The last vestige of hope collided with disbelief. The shadows pressed in, and she felt an impending dread that twisted her insides. This world wasn't just new. It was rewriting everything she thought she knew. "Who are you, really?" Valentina's voice cracked, uncertainty flooding her mind. Relationships just forged now threatened to crumble. "What have you revealed?" As tables trembled and whispers turned to roars, she realized one devastating truth. None of them would leave unchanged, and at the very center of it all was the key to understanding who they were, what they were truly up against. The night was far from over, and a reckoning awaited them, built on the paths they never expected to cross. Valentina stood frozen, heart pounding as the revelation hung in the air. The vibrant hall felt like a storm, faces flashing past her in familiar yet distant shapes. She could feel the weight of every secret, every shared pain, stretching back through her family's history. It was overwhelming. Matteo, trembling beside her, blinked up at her, his glow dimming as confusion clouded his innocent eyes. "Mom, what do we do?" His tiny voice trembled with uncertainty, as if he could sense the impending storm. "We have to face this together," Valentina whispered, wrapping her arms around him. She could feel Dante's presence behind her, firm and steady. He was there, looking at her with a mix of fear and determination. "Together," he echoed, stepping closer. The shadows loomed ominously, retreating momentarily, as if sensing the bond between them. They stood united, a family forged in chaos. Just then, the dark man took a step forward, fury igniting his features. "You can't hide from your legacy. You think you can simply walk away?" His voice dripped with contempt, every word a sharpened blade. Valentina took a breath, her voice rising to meet his challenge. "We're not hiding. We're reclaiming our fate. You can't control us anymore." The quiet strength in her voice surprised even herself. The glowing woman, still watching from the edges, her expression inscrutable, suddenly stepped forward. "You must remember, your connections are both powerful and dangerous. You must choose. How will you use this strength?" As if summoned, ghosts from her past flickered within the crowd. Voices of loved ones and faces she thought were forever lost. "This is where you belong," they seemed to say. But in that moment, the shadows rushed back, forming a dark wave that crashed against the hall. Every light flickering. "Enough!" The dark man bellowed. "You think you can resist?" Valentina's heart raced. "We have no choice but to fight," she shouted. Just as chaos erupted, Matteo stepped forward, his small body glowing bright. "Stop," he commanded. The glow pulsed, a burst of light that cut through the darkness. The shadows recoiled, uncertainty casting doubt on their faces. As the light surged, the dark man faltered, shock momentarily replacing his anger. "No!" he choked, instincts screaming to retreat. "Take our legacy and use it for good," Valentina said, voice steady, the fear melting into resolve. "We will not hide or run. We will unite our family and rewrite our story." At that, a wave of warmth flooded the space, signaling a shift, a flicker of hope emerging within the uncertainty of what had come before. The shadows pulsed, but were held back by the strength of familial love, flaring like bright sparks against the darkness. The dark man stumbled back, eyes wide with disbelief, as the pulled energy from Matteo filled the room. And in that moment, the crowd erupted into chaos, voices blending, echoes of support and fear intertwining. The lights flickered as if the room itself were acknowledging their courage. But within that chaos, Valentina felt the weight of every past choice press against her heart. "Whatever comes next, we face it together," she whispered to Dante, who inhaled sharply, desire and fear swirling in his eyes. Suddenly, the glow around Matteo spiraled outward. The shadows teetered on the edge of retreat, setting the foundation for something new to emerge. With every heartbeat, a sense of infinite possibilities surrounded them, weaving back together what had once been lost. Valentina looked around at her family, her heart swelling with pride. They had chosen to fight, to reclaim their lives, and she knew in her soul that they would endure. But before they could catch their breath, the scene around them shuddered, the world shifting again. Hints of laughter, a melody both sweet and haunting, echoed through the hall, pulling at the edges of Valentina's thoughts. As the dark man shrank back, shadows receding at last, Valentina turned to the woman who had watched over them. "What now?" she gasped, the questions swirling. The woman smiled softly, flickering with light. "Now you choose your path, but remember." Her voice faded into the distance, lost in a rush of light. And just like that, Valentina realized this was more than an ending. It was a beginning. But questions still loomed, hidden paths tangled ahead. As the glow enveloped them, new adventures waited just beyond the horizon, shrouded in mystery. And as they stepped closer to each other, the essence of family surged within them, reminding them, what comes next is up to us. Hey, before we wrap this up, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now so you won't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that are coming your way. You need to subscribe immediately to stay connected. And smash that like button. It really feeds the algorithm and helps this community grow. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and what you think of our character's journey. And don't wait another second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything, and only true fans know how important it is to keep building this amazing channel. Let's embark on Thay.